Ecobank, Telecel.
Hello there, good evening, and a warm welcome to you. This is Business Focus here on TV3. I am Michael Obodu. Coming up tonight on the show, we navigate economic growth, fiscal policy, and monetary policy rates for stability amid the 2026 budget presentation. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, every day people face different emergencies: police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you would always want to remember: *770#. Yes, *770# is the new Ecobank money emergency number. *770# gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more, even without data. So there's no need for you to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. Ecobank will always come to your rescue. Dial *770# now for solutions to your money emergencies. Ecobank, the Pan-African bank and proud sponsor of Business Focus, as well as Telecel. We'll turn our attention quickly now to the currency, commodity, as well as the T-bills front and bring you updates from that market before we segue straight into our conversation for today. Now, on the currency front, the dollar will be bought from you at 11 cedis, 11 pesos, sold to you at 11 cedis, 12 pesos. The pound will be bought from you at 14 cedis, 55 pesos, sold to you at 14 cedis, 56 pesos. The euro, on the other hand, will be bought from you at 12 cedis, 81 pesos, sold to you at 12 cedis, 82 pesos. But be guided that these figures will be much higher at a forex bureau near you. On the global commodity front, the price of cocoa is up by $37. It's trading at $5,196 per ton. Gold is up by $28.74. It's trading at $4,094 per ounce. Crude oil, on the other hand, is also up by $0.38. It's trading at $62.94 per barrel. On the T-bill front, the 91-day bill is going for 11.13%, 182-day bill 12.68%, 364-day bill is at 13.06%. But we do know that despite the rates being higher than inflation, government continues to experience an undersubscription, 6 consecutive undersubscriptions so far. We have the Ghana Association of Banks in studio also for us. Hopefully we'll pick their thoughts on what is accounting for this dip and where they are probably putting their monies and where their customers are looking towards. This is Business Focus here on TV3. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll go straight into our conversation. Stay tuned.
Panic, but if you are
masquerades are scary, but bills shouldn't scare you. Be one of 10,000 lucky winners when you deposit multiples of 400 Ghana cedis or take a loan in multiples of 4,000 Ghana cedis to win up to 1.5 million Ghana cedis in cash and prizes, 1-year insurance cover, and more. Tap into vibes in the Ecobank 5-star enjoyment promo. Up to 15% discount when you use our cards and digital platforms. Ecobank, the Pan-African bank. Ecobank will never call or text asking you to verify sensitive information like your PIN, Ghana card, or bank card information. Pay better attention to details.
Through every step of life's unpredictable journey, every moment counts. That's why you need a partner you can always trust for solutions, so you can be rest assured. having impacted over 200,000 lives, processed over 4.2 million claims, partnered with over 400 corporations, paid out over 836 million Ghana cedis in claims, contracted over 1,600 healthcare facilities nationwide, and pioneered several innovations like free medicine delivery, an interactive mobile app, and more. You'll be surprised what can be accomplished in 20 years. We're part of the Nationwide family. Are you? Nationwide Medical Insurance. 20 years of leading the way.
Mum and Dad, if you're looking for safe, affordable entertainment for your little ones this festive season, GoTV is your family's happy place. On our fun-filled and educational channels, wild imaginations can run free. So, stick with GoTV, at home or on the go with GoTV Stream. GoTV is every happy child's happy place. GoTV. Love it.
When the sun rises, there is hope. While this hope lingers on, the citizens look up to the government, the economy, the national development agenda, and everything in between. On Ghana Tonight, it's our utmost priority to bring you insightful conversations on the economy, break down the biggest issues while setting the agenda for transformation and national development. The big and important stories are treated from the human interest angle, while the facts and the figures are painted with precision. So now, let's cut the convention and start the conversation here on Ghana Tonight. I am your host, Alfred Okamsi.
Ghana Tonight shows Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Flamingo Paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Kel Charcoal Toothpaste.
Welcome back. This is Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obudu. Now, the unveiling of the 2026 budget statement by the Finance Minister has placed the country's economic strategy firmly on a path to balance accelerated growth with the critical need for fiscal stability. The budget, themed Resetting for Growth, Jobs and Economic Transformation, underscores a shift from the past focus on stabilization towards targeted development. Can the 2026 budget help to navigate economic growth, fiscal policy, and monetary policy rate for stability? Well, joining us for the conversation tonight is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Association of Banks, John Ehua, financial economist at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, Professor Isaac Boedi, and Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bedu Abuaje. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Mr. Ehua, I'll start with you because I think we haven't engaged you yet on the budget since it was read. Your initial comments?
I was impressed. I think it sets a very good tone for the country going forward. My impression of the budget is one, particularly coming from the language that was used about consolidating the gains. We are anchoring the gains so that when we are growing, we know that we are growing from a solid base. On that basis, just in short, I would say that it fed into our expectations, and we are just hoping that we will stick to it and won't spend when we don't have, and keep to the revenue targets that we set for ourselves. Once we are making the revenues, then of course we can embark on the projects that have been outlined. We should do everything to avoid going ahead of the expenditure when the revenue is significantly lagging. That has been the problem this country has had many, many years. And if something that has been corrected this year, given the level of fiscal prudence that we have seen, should that continue in 2026? And that is the expectation, that it continues, because that is what the finance minister told the country. And we are hopeful that 2026, beyond the IMF, we will still continue to have the level of stability and the controlled growth. I emphasize the word controlled growth. That's why I'm sure from the minister's in his own wisdom, we are now around growth of around 6% or thereabout, and the projected growth rate is around 4.8 in 2026, because consolidation is important to consolidate the stability, and then you can grow in targeted ways that are more impactful, or that is more impactful to the economy.
Well, was there something in there that you as banks were looking out for that didn't make an appearance?
We as banks, the way we measure progress is when your cost growth is exceeding your revenue growth. We call it negative jaws. And we had that in the budget. The expenditure in the budget is projected to grow at 19.8%, and the revenue is projected to grow at 18.3%. That gives you a negative jaws of 1.5%. If you go on this trajectory, it means that you have to be accumulating debt in order to finance the gap. And that is not something that this budget is talking about. This budget is talking about staying disciplined and making sure that we consolidate the gains, embarking on a fiscal consolidation. And fiscal consolidation means you are keeping within your means, your revenue, and making sure that you don't accumulate extensive debt numbers. But negative jaws of 1.5%, perhaps we are just making too much noise for something so little. But the signal is sent that we are planning to grow our expenditure more than we are growing our revenue. It's a kind of a mixed match for us.
And I'm sure a lot of people too are concerned what happens post-IMF, but we'll see how all of that pans out if the government will indeed continue with the fiscal discipline. But you also as industry and Chamber of Commerce have been very, excited about this budget, especially with the pro-industry initiatives that it has, right?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, for us, we're looking at a budget that will support and promote and stimulate private sector activity. But largely, we see a number of indications, a number of policies that we think that it will support the private sector businesses. In fact, for businesses, we're looking out for a very stable macroeconomic environment. And if you look at the budget, we've seen some stability, and it's also a promise that they will further stabilize it. That is what we are looking for. By and large, some of the input that we made into the budget for us is reflected. One, we're not looking for introduction of any new taxes, and there was no new taxes. We're not looking for the increase in...
Well, at least there was a new levy of a sort on the airport.
I mean, largely, from our side...
From your side, okay.
From our side. I mean, others will also fight their own fight. but largely, the tax reform for us was one of the highest points for us. Because it's something that we've been complaining about since the very day that this VAT structure was introduced. The Chamber of Commerce made a comment that this VAT is not good for us. Of course, if you look at the structure, it doesn't support businesses. So in almost all our input into the budget, we've asked for a reform of this VAT system. So if you have seen the reform and also seen some of the taxes being taken out, for instance, the COVID levy, which we have cried over for years, is taken out. For us, it's a good news. Also to have effective VAT rate that we think that you can also claim for your input VAT. For us, it's also very important. Our concern, which you have expressed in several platforms, is the effective VAT rate. In fact, in our engagement with the IMF and the World Bank, even with the Ministry of Finance, we clearly stated that we are in a competitive environment. So if you are putting your VAT, it should also be in line with what your other competitors are having. In Africa, I mean, the highest, I think, is about 16% or so. I mean, some are doing 7.5%, but they may have other taxes. But if you're talking about the VAT, effective VAT rate. So we were expecting, I mean, our input, we were expecting that at least the effective VAT rate should be around 18% for a start. But we got 20%. Even though we are not happy, we think that it's a good start. Our engagement further with the minister clearly indicated that he has acknowledged that it's relatively high compared to the other countries. And he has assured that if the numbers improve, if the compliance is good and revenue is coming, he will consider reducing the VAT rate. But one important thing is that I have seen a fiscal consolidation that is not overly concentrating on revenue generation. When you do that, that's where you see a lot of taxes being imposed, but you're also looking at rationalization of expenditure. So I don't have the money. The people are not able to pay more taxes now because of their structure, because of what they are going through. So I will look at the other side of it. That is the expenditure. And we realize that there's been some very good management of expenditure over the period. So I think it's good. I've also expressed concern about the growth rate. I mean, others are saying it's okay, but I see it as more conservative.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, now you are doing over 6%, and if you are doing 4.8, I mean, we've been told that is the least. But I expect that the least should be a bit higher to compel them, all of us, to work harder. I mean, we want to create jobs. And growth rate of 4.8, even though it's above the average, for me, it's still quite conservative, still, I mean, on the lower side.
Yeah.
If you want to expand and create the jobs, I'm also interested in where the growths are coming. I mean, I will call it the quality of growth.
Yeah.
If you want to create jobs, it's not necessary that we look at so much about the service sector that is driving our economy. I mean, in countries that want to create jobs, they look at the industrial sector, they look at the manufacturing sector. So I'm expecting a lot of growth coming from the manufacturing sector. That's what I'll be more, and also the agri sector.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that the oil palm development fund and the project under the oil palm is coming up.
Okay.
Even though it's a long term, I see it as a good start, even for private sector, for businesses.
Yeah.
That within the value chain, you can get private sector tapping into all these nodes, and obviously we will expand and create more jobs.
Before you delve into that, I know you are really excited about it, but to you, Mr. White, this budget some have described as very conservative. You've heard from what the consensus raised about the growth rate, for instance. Inflation also is, the target is, I think, about 8% or so, even though we are projected to end this year as low as probably 6 or even lower. Do you also get the sense that they are being overly cautious?
I won't characterize it as such. I'll just say that we need to listen to exactly what the minister said. That, his emphasis is on consolidating the gain. And consolidating the gain means that you don't want to overreach. You know, you want to make sure that the stability that we've had is properly anchored, so that whatever growth that you put on that stability becomes a growth that is sustainable, a growth that also goes to meet the needs of the country. I'm 100% aligned with what he just said about the quality of the growth. You cannot change the structure of our GDP makeup within one budget cycle, but Ghana's GDP makeup is a semblance of a very well-developed country, with services sector leading almost 50%, industry around like 30%, and agri at 20%. You are talking about the GDP makeup of Germany, in UK, France, and those countries. They have. We need jobs, and if you need jobs, where do you have to grow? You need to grow your industrial sector, manufacturing, create manufacturing jobs, create agriculture, agribusiness, leading to an industry. Service sector is a derivative. As industries grow, nobody will tell hotels to expand. As industries grow, nobody will tell financial institutions to be available. As industries grow, there will be ICT to support industrial growth. So it is more a derivative. Jobs availability within the services sector is very it's quite low as compared to the quality of jobs you can get in agri and also within the industrial sector. We are talking about 8 to 9% growth for industry, for services, against 4.5% growth for industry. Yes, we are moving from 3.2 to 4.5, which is quite a significant growth in terms of movement. But it's still, in terms of composition, and I've said you cannot correct it fully within one budget cycle, but we have to actively work on industry. Because that is where getting people off the streets, people off the Galamsey sites, that is where their next avenues for, quality livelihoods. That is where they will find it. But I'm also interested in what is not in the budget. You see, the finance minister has a lot of leverage at the moment. The whole country is behind the government. This is the time to take the difficult decisions, because you still have time to make some level of recovery. When things begin, be turning rough, it becomes difficult to make the decisions that are in the public interest, but may be initially not palatable or not, fanciful. The first one, I wouldn't, to be honest, there was a promise that the COVID levy, for instance, will be removed or repealed. If I were the finance minister, I'll repurpose it. You are talking about 3.7 billion Ghana cedis that is moving away from the public finances. That is 3.7 billion that if we had repurposed, even made a statutory kind of funding to retool our public hospitals. We have district hospitals, regional hospitals that do not have basic equipment, dialysis machines, MRI machines. MRI, the most expensive one I'm told costs $1 million. As for dialysis, it's under 50,000. Can you imagine how many MRI machines and dialysis machines 3.7 billion Ghana cedis can acquire? If we really focus it to that arena, we will get almost all public hospitals within the regional hospitals and the district hospitals with this basic equipment that we need for our survival. So I would rather repurpose it. And also the things that, in my view, are fanciful to have, but may not necessarily be in the national interest. Why are we still paying nurses to go to school? Why are we still paying teachers to go to school? When even those who have completed are struggling to be placed? Year on year. Because the justification is not grounded. And I cannot understand why we cannot take a political stand on this and draw a line and say, never again. We will repurpose that money and use it to develop education. Remove how many schools under trees? We still have them. I just heard on the news, I think in Aquinas Secondary School, no furniture. Accra, under our noses and eyes. And then we are saying that we are paying teachers and people to go and learn teaching, people to go and learn lessons, when even private nursing institutions are struggling to have intakes. So I think that there are difficult things that the budget, in my view, should have captured.
But technically, the COVID thing is technically, because you have effective VAT rate of 20%, it's just a reduction of about 1.1% or so. So they just change the structure, but technically it's seen in there.
Well, we'll see how all of that pans out. But we also have joining us Professor Boedi from the University of Professional Studies, Accra. He's also the Executive Director of IERPP. That is basically the Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy. And they were in the news last week for giving this government 40% score so far on how they fared in 2025. Prof, thank you so much for your time.
A good friend, and good evening to my colleagues in the studio.
Okay, so I know you were in the news already. 40% for a government that has been able to reduce inflation to single digits, being fiscally prudent. Aren't you being too hard on the government, some may say?
Yes, I must indicate we don't run a government, assess a government using 4-year time. For the first 6 months of any administration, you get to know the intent and purpose and then the will of that administration. So even in the banking sector, when we set up a branch, they have 6 months to break even. So using the same analysis, the government is giving 4-year mandate. But every month, every year, we do a fair assessment. So we use the last 2025 year budget that was approved to assess this administration. And clearly, we gave the various indicators, reasons why the government scored the 40.5%. It was above the performance of the first 120 days. You know, we did one assessment of the first 120 days, and the government scored, I think, 30-something. So we have seen improvement, but it's still not a pass mark because per the last year, the 2025 budget that was approved, even up to today, we have not seen any paradigm shift. Let me also be clear in the analysis that we did. We gave this administration, I think, a huge marks and a revenue reforms or some few reforms that we have seen in that area, abolishing some levies, finding other means of generating revenue into the country. But then, put all this thing together, the net effect is that we have not seen major transformational investment in infrastructure, in industrialization, productivity enhancing sectors. We have not seen that. And the same thing that we are seeing in the 2026 budget, that if you look at the entire budget, it's good that the government tells us what they intend, what they want to do. But then if we check the numbers and check the areas and the intention of this administration, clearly the 2026 budget reflects structural imbalances with compensation, interest payment, taking almost half of the total expenditure of this administration, leaving a small portion for investment. So it tells you that in terms of paradigm shifts as a country, we're still haven't gotten the solution to our problems. So 2025, 2026, it's still the same, no paradigm shifts.
But
we
really
have not seen...
For a country that is cut out of the international capital markets, we are struggling to raise revenue domestically. We are not even meeting our T-bills targets. What options really do they have?
What option do they have? For a country that has been cut out of international markets, if you go back, the idea would be who caused this? Anytime you want to blame previous administrations, we are fair in assessment. But then if you check even the revenue targets and per the comments of our Minister of Finance before the budget was read on the 13th of November, the minister tells us the reduction in the e-levy did not even weaken the revenue target, as we are told. If you check the entire budget again, looking at page, I think 18, paragraph 120 or so, or 112, it tells you we could not raise or achieve our revenue target of 164. We got only 157 or so. So we fell short of about 7 points. So clearly it ties in to what you said. But the point is that a minister knowing the numbers probably shouldn't have said that when he knew that we were unable to meet our target. So a country struggling to raise revenue, I can understand. What can we do? A country struggling. But in the same budget, you give SMEs, you take away some taxes, cover levy off. Those in the SMEs bracket, if your turnovers are not up to 750,000 or so, don't pay tax. Don't pay tax to the government.
No,
what do you expect?
I think, to be clear, it said to pay 3% of your total revenue at the end of the year. It didn't say not to pay at all, just to be clear.
No, but when we are looking at tax, when your tax net, what is the net effect?
Some will also argue that, well, this is part of opening up the economy, increasing...
off the hook.
Say that again. Hello, Prof. Well, we are struggling to connect with Prof. Wade. We'll go for a quick break. This is Business Focus here on TV3. When we come back, we'll bring you more. Please stay tuned.
panic, but if you're
Welcome back to Business Focus here on TV3 with me, Michael Obodu. Just gone past were tidbits from Ecobank on helping you understand and plan for your pensions. But then every day people face different emergencies. Police emergency, fire emergency, medical emergency, you name it. But many Ghanaians don't know their emergency numbers. Well, here's one you would always want to remember. *770#. Yes, *770# is the new Ecobank money emergency number. *770# gives you instant access to loans, fund transfers, utility payments, airtime and data purchases, and so much more even without data. So there's no need for you to panic when you find yourself in any money emergency. Ecobank will always come to your rescue. So dial *770# now for solutions to your money emergencies. Ecobank, the Pan-African Bank, and proud sponsor of Business Focus, as well as Telecel. Well, Prof, earlier you were making some points about this government and what you think they should begin to prioritize, especially when it comes to the revenue side. You're quite concerned that despite where we find ourselves on the revenue side, we are giving away, scrapping taxes. Some argue that, well, this is all part of opening up the economy because when you remove the taxes, consumers have more money to spare and they can spend to grow the economy. Don't you agree?
I think he's muted.
Prof, you're muted. Please, if you could unmute yourself.
Yeah, it's fine now.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you. Please go on.
Yeah. We also need to be concerned about this argument that reduction of taxes will translate into business generation and that can increase employment. It's a paradox. And I can understand where other advocates are coming from. But the point is that reduction of taxes do not automatically translate into job creation and businesses doing well. They also depend on the climate, investment climate. They also depend on demand for products. And these are some of the things that we also need to be concerned about. You see, we are struggling with revenue generation. And in any day, when a government tells us they want to reduce our taxes, our payment of taxes, ordinarily, everybody will be happy. But you see, running administration is a tedious thing. You try to reduce your taxes, and that drops your revenue. There are other people who will come after you after some months in terms of development. So one breath, you are being praised for reduction in taxes, that is fine. On the other breath, you're also going to be chased for development and for projects. And if you check the 2026 budget, especially, I'm concerned about the revenue framework. So many loopholes. You realize that the government is relying heavy reliance on tax administration, administrative measures, not real growth drivers. That's my worry. The government wants to improve compliance, good. The government wants to use digital tools for e-commerce extractives and then cross-border trade. The government also wants to depend on tightening exemptions and at the same time VAT reforms. If we cross-check all that I've mentioned, about 4 pillars or so I've mentioned to you, they are more administrative rather than economic expansion measures. That's where the problem is. If you tell someone, go and pay your tax compliance just to go and pay, encouraging people to pay on time and all that, if they don't pay on time, can you take care of your developmental projects? If AI fails you or you're unable to use that tool to mop up more revenue, to take care of your expenditure, what happens? If you tighten the exemptions and still have loopholes, what happens? If your reforms are not well implemented, what happens to revenue? So I see this as more administrative measures than the expansion measures that we can, as a country, we need to
So what then would you advise? Because they have limited options, really. What would you have done in their shoes?
They have, come again.
What would you advise they do differently? Because really, the options are limited. You've made a point there about them cutting their revenues because of the the scrapping of the taxes. What else would you have them do?
Well, in fact, for now, I would request that we reassess the 2026 budget again to ensure we have revenue and expenditure projections that are more realistic and achievable. 2, I think that, just as in my intro, there should be a conscious effort of, for instance, in industrialization and productivity enhancing sectors. We have a country, we know our major problem. We know what we go through. A country that exports more than we import. We know the solution. We import more than we export. We consume more than we produce. So if we turn the argument, you have your solution.
We constantly record a trade surplus, according to the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what are the things that we can do more locally?
Okay.
For us to export to generate more?
All right, Prof, I'll come back to you. Because you speak about the issue of creating the enabling environment for businesses to thrive. One of the things in this budget was the fact that policy rates for 2026 would stay within 21.5%. Mr. Wa, how do you feel about that?
Policy rate?
Yeah, the target for 2026 was to stay within 21.5% at best, I believe. It was one of the things mentioned there. But what do you think about that?
Have you really checked on that? The policy rate was captured in the fiscal document. I'll be very surprised to find them, predicting policy rates from the finance minister's perspective. I'm not sure it was policy rate that he was referring to. But
he mentioned it, but we'll pull it out for you. But then beyond that as well, the committee is meeting today.
Yes.
And we are expecting an announcement. As we sit at the moment, it's at 21.5%. What are your expectations?
Given the current circumstances, obviously, the key driver of the movement in the policy rate is inflation expectations. You know that we are heading into December, where generally inflationary pressures heighten. So if not for that, I would have expected that, given where inflation is and where the other macro fundamentals are, the policy rate could have come down a bit, more around 250 basis points to the region of around 19%. But given that the central bank's view of outlook on inflation, prices in a whole lot of these variables that potentially can, unwind some of the gains that we've made on reversing the pressures, I would think that they will be very measured in reducing the policy rate in order not to create problem, creating some level of inflation as a result. So I'm thinking that maybe somewhere around 100 basis points at the maximum potentially will be where the central bank or the committee will be looking at reducing the rate because of the uncertainties around the inflation outlook in December, given the seasonal nature, and we know how prices behave in December in the country.
Okay, I doubt. I doubt you agree, GNCCI.
Oh yes, I don't agree with him. Obviously, looking at where inflation is and the expectation that even in November, there's a likelihood that it will go down further. The disinflation process starts and moves to a certain level. So it won't necessarily just overturn itself and move that high. And now looking at the level of inflation and where the policy rate is, it's about 13.5% difference, which means that the real interest rate is about 13.5%. And I think I've heard, also from him, that some banks are lending at less than the policy rate, which means that the position of the policy rate itself is economically wrong. in that no bank is supposed to lend below the policy rate. It means the central bank will now have to know that there is a need. If banks are lending below the policy rate, it means the policy rate should fall below even that lending rate. So now, given everything, if there is any time for the central bank to reduce the policy rate further, it is now. Where even the CD is appreciated. He was talking about December. Usually, what causes inflation during December is imported inflation. Because we've had the CD depreciating. So when people are importing more, prices will go up and it will feed into the inflation. Now we've seen some stability within the exchange. So I don't expect that the CD will depreciate that much.
And we're expecting some money from the IMF as well too.
Of course, just to show up. So given these factors, I'm expecting about 300 basis points. For me, that is more realistic because that will bring the policy rate around the 18% that we are talking about. So if a bank is lending at 19%, then obviously the 18% will be a more realistic. Otherwise, there's a misalignment. Otherwise, even then, the central bank itself, I must say, then they don't believe in the numbers they are churning out. Because if all these factors, all these key macroeconomic indicators are trending and reducing at this level, and you still keep your policy rate at 20%, I'll be surprised.
There may be something the central bank knows that we don't, because you know last year as well, it was held at a fixed rate, even though inflation was hedging downwards.
It is all, you see, the policy, the key driver of the policy rate is not inflation now.
Okay.
It is outlook. You understand? It's inflation expectation. So if their view, in the view of the committee, the inflation, the point you made is valid around the disconnection. You know, in the rates. That is a very valid point. But the point I'm making is the policy rate tool is being used to address something very different.
But the outlook is also very good.
Gentlemen, fair point. Prof, let me come to you briefly in 30 seconds. Where do you sit with all of this, gentlemen? Where do you sit with all of this? What would you say is your ideal policy rate, judging from the current macroeconomic indicators? Briefly, please.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, Prof.
Let me backtrack a little bit. You see,
just 30 seconds.
Okay, I mean, my position on the rate, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, we need to look at the various measures that they are using now in computing the policy rate. I have had a lot of issues with this, and I think maybe when I have time, I will let you know some of it. I wrote an article on this how we compute our policy rate. It used to be those days they go to the venue, people will come and read what they think, and then they do voting on. We need clear instrument or proper ways of computing these numbers. It's very important.
So your ideal rate would be?
Well, I expect the rate to drop, maybe 300 basis points or
300 basis points. GNCC, I will be happy to hear that. But gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. That'll be all for today's edition of Business Focus here on TV3. I had in studio with me Mark Bedu Abwaje, CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Also in studio with us is John Ehua, CEO of the Ghana Association of Banks. And joining us virtually is Professor Isaac Bedi. He's a financial economist at the University of Professional Studies. I believe he's the Dean of the Accounting Department as well. Prof, am I correct? All right, thank you, gentlemen, so much for your time. Catch you same time next week. My name is Michael Obodu. As always, please stay safe.
Business Focus is brought to you